Today's guest provided an intriguing interview in episode 14. If you have not heard the episode, please go back and take a listen. I think you'll be a fan of her work. She is a gifted psychic and speaker, author of The Sky in June, How to Talk with Spirits, City of Redemption, and The Timeless Counselor. She is a near-death experiencer, a psychic medium that has worked in many of the paranormal fields. I'd like to welcome June Ahern to the show. How you doing, June?
Good, doing good.
It's nice to have you back on the show. I was able to take a little listen to our episode a day or so ago, and I was just thrown back at how many different subjects and areas that we were able to touch on in the 50 minutes that we had a conversation. So there was a lot of areas that we had covered, and I think, maybe there's quite a few topics we want to cover tonight. So I'm ready to jump in. How are you since we last spoke?
Doing really good. I'm doing good. I've been enjoying giving my monthly talks, Zoom talks to people, just to share what I have. I'm at the age where I'm mostly retired, so I want to share what I have, and so that's what I've been doing and focusing on finding the joy in life.
Well, that's great. So you're still giving talks and teaching others then? I was kind of wondering about that because I know before you did a lot of public speaking, right? And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I used to teach the olden days when we actually met in person in the olden days.
Yeah.
But this whole Zoom thing has really worked for me. I mean, I have people that check in with me from back east, and I have someone from Paris that looks forward every month and stays up late, and so I'm contributing. I feel like I'm contributing something to society.
That's one thing about that technology. It is good in a lot of ways, and I think people have found good use for it in this pandemic. And
Yes,
it would be tragic not to have that technology and going
absolutely.
through what we're going through right now. So, is there anything new that you're working on currently?
Well, I'm not working on it, but there is going to be a production next summer, 2021, of a movie. A movie's being made about me in one of my murder cases, and I have Veronica Cartwright is an older actress, and oh, I forget we're supposed to say actor. We don't say actress anymore, and she's the lead. She's playing me, and we actually have a lot of similarities, so that was fun. And so that's in progress. Um, Other than that, as I said, talking to people and teaching people and about growing the ability to use a psychic mind in a productive way, and especially the children that have been born in the last even started 40 years ago. We hear about the indigo children, the rainbow children, the crystal children, that they're much more advanced than people from, say, my generation. There's a great awakening that's going on. Even though it's a difficult time on planet Earth, we are absolutely in an evolution and awakening. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that movie. I had seen something on your website about that. Now, are you working hand in hand with the actor?
Well, the filmmaker is a script writer, and he did send me the script, several times. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So when we had a Zoom meeting with Veronica Cartwright and the producer and me, and then they asked me questions. Well, especially she asked me questions. What do you think about this, or how did you handle that? And moving into the psychic mind. How does it work? And I just really love sharing how the psychic mind works. I absolutely
Cool.
have believed, I wrote this in my first book back in 1990, that people with developed and educated psychic minds, I think it's a good idea to get an education in it, could be such a positive part of society in all ways, not only with the police, who I've worked with the police on murder cases and missing persons, but also in a way of education, medical field, what we call traditional psychology, coming to a psychic, being able to look at healers. That's just my thoughts.
Very cool. And you had mentioned there's a great awakening. I've heard a lot of people talk about this. Is this did this start prior to like what's been going on in the
Yeah,
last year, or is this, or maybe is this what's going on in the last year just accelerating things, or what are your
accelerated.
thoughts?
Good work. Good work, Dylan. That's good. That's everything is rapidly moving now. Really the changes began back in the 60s, right? The late 60s, which I came of age in the 60s, and we no longer wanted to believe what we were being told, whether it was politically, it's a big upheaval politically, socially, religiously. Women saying, I'm not taking that role, or I don't want that role. So there were a lot of changes, and you're right. Now we're really into the change, especially with all the technology. I mean, I used to write letters to people. Hey, hi, how are you doing? And then you wait for a letter to come back. It's kind of exciting to actually kind of miss that time waiting for a letter. And now we know what people even have for dinner. We just about know everything.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't use a lot of that part of social media to know everything everybody's doing, but it has got me in touch with people I've been wanting to be in touch with. I keep in touch with my relatives back in Scotland much more now. We actually converse much more. So it is not. If you look for it to be a bad time, then it's a bad time. If you look and say it's a changing time, uh, personally, what I see, there's a greater awareness about justice for animals, more than it's ever been. There's a great awareness of the environment and how mankind, and I do say man, is destroying oceans, air, earth. There's a greater awareness that is happening. And do we have to look and say this is a terrible thing? It's awareness. Or do we say, how can I be a part of bettering that situation? Should I stop using plastic all the time? Something simple like that.
Do people have hope for this great awakening? Is this something that's going to be a positive thing moving forward?
I hope so. I really, I really support it and educate people and talk to them about this. When a lot of people contact me, they have difficult times, and I don't do private readings anymore. Uh, but I do hear from people, and they want to know, and I say, well, you want to develop, you want to learn to listen to your intuition. So I can't say if there's a lot of people, but certainly the people I have told you this before, that I study with the Rosicrucians organization. It's a worldwide, it's been around for a long time. And we are encouraged to remember that this is a beautiful planet. Nature is still a beautiful place. There are more loving and caring people than there are not. And that's what we want to focus on, instead of, how horrible it is. I that's not helping us as a society, it's not helping Earth, is the way I look at it. And being realistic about it, not being, what do they call that, Pollyanna. I am definitely not a Pollyanna. you know
What do you think the cause of the awakening is? Is it just hmm, is it kind of like consciousness pushing us in that direction, or is it what is that?
well, humankind has always had awakenings. When we're talking about the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction that is happening, well, it's already happened in some areas, in the planet, people in different time things. Um, you know, that, as we know from what we're told, didn't it happened about 800 years ago. It's the last time that this kind of conjunction that close happened. And that was the Renaissance, coming out of the Dark Ages. The Renaissance was man, that would have been a cool time to live
That
if you
would have
didn't
been a
come
cool
out too
time.
publicly, because there was a big church then that would burn you at the stake if they didn't like what you said. It was
Yep.
a big time for studying the cosmos, for science. It really was a leap forward in what had already existed in more of the European, because we know that in Persia and the Middle East, they were advanced us, especially Persia. They were way advanced Europe in all of their studies. So it was not a bad time to live in the Renaissance time as far as progression. That's what we're doing now. We have to progress. I mean, look at
And you think this is part of the awakening then is this planetary shift?
absolutely. I mean, what has come to the, I love the way Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. She's, anybody that doesn't have that book, you should get that book, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. It changed my life for the better, awakening. You know, we could just think of it in simple terms. When you're young, you you pick out these partners that aren't that great for you. But then you start going, you know, I'm not going to repeat that again. Well, if you're smart enough, you say it.
Right.
Otherwise, you just keep doing it. Or you get a job you absolutely hate. And you say, the next time I get a job, it's going to be something I like better. Now look at what you're doing, Dylan. You're enjoying this. You're sharing, and it gets to show your abilities, your skills, what you're interested in. And so but you came to that awakening. You know,
Yes.
so we don't have to take it into this big spiritual place. I'm not a super intellectual kind of person.
Hmm.
I like things elementary myself. You know, could you simplify what you're saying? I often say to my Rosicrucian sisters and brothers, like, what does that word mean? And if we look at our own self, I mean, at my age, now that I'm an older, wiser crone, and I look back at all the stuff it took me so long to get, that's an awakening. So it doesn't have to be something huge. It's all individual. What do you know now? How do you look at people and the world now than you did a year ago? Now, if you
Yeah.
want to live in fear and you want to live in the sky is falling, because it certainly is falling piece by piece, uh, well, that's how your life is going to be. You know, I didn't study all these years, 50 years, to create my own world, to get sucked into everybody else's misery. It's just not
Right.
going.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to be.
So awakening is not it doesn't have to be a huge, like, oh, I'm so spiritual now. I mean, really, spirit is just working out your own spirit. You know, be optimistic. Do something good to somebody else, which I think most people do. Actually, I really do. You know, just a kind word. Kind word will make a big difference.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, there's still a lot of that going on. It's just not maybe portrayed, in the media, or it's not put out there, the positive things that people are
That's
doing.
right. It doesn't sell. Good news doesn't sell. Bad news sells.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
that's really anybody that's in the newspaper. My husband was in the newspaper business, and he laughs. He knows, what sells? Scary bad news sells. More people. They've done studies. More people will plug into anything that deals with negative news, percentage-wise, than if there's a good news. That column or that TV spot or whatever gets less attention than the bad news. I mean, this is actually a study that was done.
Yep, I believe it. I believe it. So now that we're recording this on what is it, December 21st, the winter solstice. Can you talk a little bit about the winter solstice? Like what is it? What is some of the energy that you get from it, or what
Well, a very
exactly is going on?
this is a very dynamic one because of the planets. But the winter solstice is a time, as we all know, the sun isn't going to be long in the sky. It's going to get dark. It's called the longest night. And what happens at night, especially cold nights? Uh, we go to bed early. We build little fires, or we turn on the heat, whichever one you do. You dream. It's actually winter for many that are in the say the pagan beliefs or metaphysical beliefs. We think of winter as the dream time. You're going to dream about the coming times, spring. It's New Year's Day. You got all these goals. Oh, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to how many do we actually really do? But you set up, what do you want differently in your life when spring comes? This is the time you're going to envision it. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to visitations that come from the spirits. Come through much during the dark times. They will come and visit you through dreams, or for me, anywhere. Safeway, walking down the street, whatever. You know? Um, so winter solstice is a time, and here's a little ritual. Write down what you no longer want to take with you into 2021. You know, is it an attitude? Is it a belief? Do you want to forgive yourself for something that you did? You know, what do you not want anymore? And that's what I'll be doing. Then you're going to have a white candle. You can have any color candle you want, and light it. And you're going to write down, I no longer, what is negative? What do you have to let go of? What do you do not want to repeat in your life? Make a nice little list. And when you're finished, you know, just hold it in your hand, fold it up, get a fire, you know, free, safe container. I have a little cauldron myself, and light it from the candle and burn it and say, I'm willing to give this up. I don't want to drag around having to read the newspaper and listen to the news that is so negative all the time. It's just meant to bring me down. You know, when we get down, those that are in charge of us have more control over us, because we're always looking for someone. Humankind is always looking for someone to save them. You know, and who could save you is yourself. This has to start with you, and it has to start with your attitude, your belief. You know, and that doesn't mean you cannot have support and help. I absolutely encourage that. But so you write that down, and then write down, what do you want to happen? Dylan, what do you, give me a couple of examples of what do you want to happen in 2021 in your life that's different than now?
I'd like to get better control over my blood sugar, but that's always a goal. And
Okay.
then probably just to keep growing the podcast, because I think, you know, not so much for me as much as for my guests, to
Yeah.
provide a service for them, because a lot of my guests are doing great positive work in the world, you know. So I just want to just help humanity in a positive way.
So if we were to say, let's talk about your sugar, get your sugar down. I have to do that too, if I want to stick around this planet long enough. And then the question would be, I'm going to take Louise Hay's step of getting to the bottom line. Okay, you should take care of your sugar level. You could take care of it. So you say to yourself, well, I should take care of it. You could. You could take care of it. And then the question is, why don't you? And once you're able to answer that, you know what you're supposed to do. You know, why don't you take care of it? Probably because you have to give something up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so the question would then the goal is not to take care of your blood sugar. The goal is to focus on how you are going to give up something that you're attached to that ultimately causes the problem in the blood sugar. So the real goal is,
Well said.
if you like sweets, say, like me, I'm a sugar. I love my chocolate. Okay, I admit it. Bless me, I do. So I got to a thing where I gave up all chocolate, but I would have something else. And then eventually the something else wasn't as so interested. So eventually I started giving up sugar that way. Now, some people can go cold turkey. I'm not a good cold turkey person. I already know that about myself. So I negotiate my sugar. I negotiate. So what you really want to write down is, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? Regarding your podcast, and you're saying, you know, then what's your plan? You know, what will you do to extend your podcast? You know, it may be a little bit more marketing. It can be, because certainly I market, you know, once I'm on your show, then I go out and I market all of it. I put it on my Facebook accounts, my Twitter accounts, my blog accounts,
Right.
all the rest of the accounts. And I share that. So looking like that, this gives you a greater understanding of how to live your life more fully. And then you ask yourself, intuitively, what do you know that you should do to better take care of yourself? What is your intuition saying to you?
Are you asking? Because
Yeah.
I know what I need to do.
Okay.
And I know, and you're right. You hit it right on. You know,
So
there's a few things, a few habits I need to give up. And
yeah, it's attached to your father, and it's attached to your father at the age of 7 and 8. You know, so this is where, say, a reading would come in to help with healing. that once you kind of examine, why don't you, like Louise Hay says,
Wait,
well,
what?
why
Wait,
don't you?
what? What did you just say?
I said that your sugar need began at the age of 7 and 8 regarding your father. It's attached somehow to your father.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
He was
So,
he was diabetic too.
pardon me?
He was diabetic too.
Aha. Okay. All right. So, it's attached to that. And then if I were to follow what I do follow Louise Hay, I do affirmations. Then you would do an affirmation. And the affirmation could be, I realize that I am my own person. My body is my own to make decisions. Or however, affirmations have changed my consciousness. And actually, scientifically, that has been proven. Finally, science is catching up with us. It's so wonderful.
Yes.
And scientifically, you can change your brain so you can change your habits. That's what I'm saying, Dylan.
And that goes along the lines of kind of like we manifest our own reality in a lot of different ways.
Right. But if you take it and you do it scientific, science shows that you can actually change your brain pathways by feeding simple, repeated words. I get people that they tell me, oh, I'm going to do this. They give me a sentence this long. I go, no. Find words. So for 2021, anyone listening, how are you going to move into what you want to create? Don't make it a New Year resolution. We usually don't do them. None of us do. And simplify it.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. What you're telling the listeners to do, and I think that's a great thing to go into the new year with. A little bit of advice. That's interesting. Interesting that you touched on that thing about me too. Kind of threw me off there for a second. That's pretty cool.
I know. It just came. It just flew out before I had a chance to.
No, that's fine. It's good. You're good. Are you still doing the work with the paranormal investigators, the Haunted Bay show?
Oh, we can't right now. We can't. I wanted to do a remote viewing, and that would be having a person. This is how I did it on my own. I put it up on YouTube. I asked my daughter-in-law, I said, would you go out and ask a few people to pick up their house, if they think their house is haunted, they think that some kind of building that they know, they have to know it really well, if it's their house or their grandparents' house. And I will gather all that information, and then I will go ahead and go into remote viewing. I will read from my place. I will go and look at this house, and I will let you know, a house or a building, and I will tell you what I pick up. Wow, it turned out better than I realized. I mean, we had such historical, I received such historical information that the family didn't know, but we actually were able to validate it. I have a friend that's a genealogist, and she was actually able to give information. So I did a few little hokey pokey videos of our YouTube.
Well, that's interesting that you had mentioned that, because that's happened to you before on other, like when you were filming before. And there's even people that have mentioned that on some of the Amazon reviews of the show about how accurate you are with the history.
Yeah.
What is it? What do you think that is? What is that about you in history? And you were even telling me like you're able to even like see maybe how some of the buildings used to look or stuff like that.
Well, when I started out with the Haunted Bay, one of the most things I stressed is you need to kind of, can you validate what I'm picking up? I did not want to do the kind of show where you go, oh my God, there's a spirit here to see. I said, I am not going to do that. That's not the way I work. And if I am doing that, I'm getting out of there. If it scared me, because it takes a lot to scare me.
Right.
Paranormal world. But if I'm scared, boy, you better be scared. So what I ask for is you need to validate it. Now, it is not easy, it's not as easy as people think to validate history. Not all history at a certain time has been recorded. Ying, who is the producer of the Haunted Bay, she used to go down to the main library and she would look things up. She would have to go back online to ancestries and and sign up for old newspapers to find out was June correct? Did she pick up? And I would have to say at least 80, 85% she's able to validate for me. Some stuff just could not be found, and I accept that. So it's important for me to say, is this for real? I mean, I'm as interested as everybody else. People say, oh, I've had some people say, oh, she's full of BS, she's this and that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but not on this investigation. Maybe if we just having a cocktail or something, gift of the gab. But I like proof. I really do. And I want proof. And I want people to take the time to give me proof. It makes it valid that I'm speaking to a spirit that has actually given me. I'll give you an example. The latest one that has come out on Amazon Prime, season 3, The Haunted Bay. The first one is about the Oddfellow building. And it was very well done. She did a lot of homework. But we couldn't figure out, when I was in the Oddfellow building in San Francisco, there was a spirit talking to me and told me, oh yeah, my name is Arthur. I guess I shouldn't tell the whole thing if people want to watch it, but it was totally a historical people that is well known to those that like to read, for instance, those that like to read. I don't know how many readers there's left in the world.
Right.
But even me, I was like blown away how it was put together. His actual historical, well-known historical people. Yeah, that it was validated. No, we didn't know anything about
That's
their
cool.
connection.
That's
that
so
was
cool.
fun.
That is fun. Yeah, you seem to have a knack for that, because I don't hear a lot of psychics talking about that. I mean, some of them may have a lot of that, I don't know, that historical stuff come up, but you just seem to, I don't know, it just seem to have a knack for it. You seem really talented at pulling that kind of information. In our last interview, you had talked about your sister passing, and you'd said that she was no longer your sister, but she was kind of like a part of everything, part of the like cosmic energy. Have you gotten any updates on that kind of stuff, or any spirits that have reached out and kind of talked to you about where we do go when we leave this earthly plane?
Well, I've really been more seriously studying dimensional planes. And we in the world, we're really only like 3 dimensions. What we see, what we hear, how we interact in the physical world, like that. And then there are other dimensions that are outside of most people's, well, even interests, say, consciousness. And that's where I go when I go into receiving information about spirits and histories and building. I go into another dimension so that I'm actually with them, walking with them, being with them, hearing what they have to say. So I have been more focused, more lately. I have been greater in tune with one of my biggest spiritual guides that have been with me for a long time, but I kind of really didn't use this spirit guide a whole lot, but lately in the last few months, we have just been so connected and giving so much talk. I could probably tell you a very strange vision that I'm having, and I try to explain it to even a friend of mine who laughed at me. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to say it, if even my friend who gets me laughed at me.
Oh,
But it's a cosmic energy. Where are we in the cosmic energy? If I said, Dylan, if you could sit for a moment and really go into your meditative state of being in the cosmic energy, what would you experience? It's an absolute fantastic trip to take. I really encourage you to take it.
And how do you go about doing that? Just through meditation and
yeah, a quiet time. We could take the word of meditation because so many people tell me they can't do that. So I say, okay, let's not use that word. If you just sit quiet, and being in nature is a nice place, or lighting.
yes.
I love I go out in nature every day.
Me too.
No matter what the weather, I get out there, for a while, whatever the weather is. And I happen to like walking in the rain, so it doesn't bother me if it's raining, unless it's really raining.
Right.
Anyway, how do you do that? Use your imagination. That's where you begin. You just say, wow, I'm up I've moved up. I'm in the universe. The universe is considered very noisy. Lots going on. and I'm just within the cosmic energy. And the more you do it, the more you become aware of you are energy. I mean, that's what you are. We're physical. You and I are looking at each other and
Right.
physical, but the energy that you have, like you would have a very uh, strong cosmic energy.
That's
Like,
pretty neat.
that's where I contact spirits and guides and everything in the cosmic energy. Yeah, pretty interesting. Either that and if I am just tripping, it's my imagination. Yeah, I do think of that. It's made my life better. I've touched a lot of people throughout all of my years that have told me that their life is better. So then it's okay. If I'm just imagining it, then it's okay.
Right. But I don't think you're just imagining it, but you know,
I know that,
yeah.
but
I'm
hey,
not
we
that,
don't know, right? We
I'm
won't
not
know.
that skeptical anymore.
I always say that if I die and find out that that it's not true, I'm going to be really pissed.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Because it is, once you start diving into it and trying to figure things out as much as we can figure out, because, you know, there's still a lot of stuff that nobody has no clue on, but
Yeah.
it seems more exciting than I could ever imagine or dream up, you know.
Oh yeah, the energy. And I was so plugged into Jupiter. I didn't know about the conjunction of Jupiter. I don't really follow a lot of the planet. I'm not an astrologer and that. I respect it, but that's not my forte. But all year long, 2020, I had a vision and invited in to be within Jupiter. And I thought, Jupiter, why Jupiter? You know, I'm a Mercury person. I'm a Gemini, you know. But I was invited in my meditation to come into Jupiter, and the Jupiter is of expansion. You know, Sagittarius. We're in the Jupiter time, a time of expansion, a time of humanity awareness and education. And what happened from there going into the planet didn't want me in at first. Had a really hard time getting into that darn planet. So it made me work harder. I'm like, I'll just go over here and be a little star. I don't have to care about getting into Jupiter. This is the kind of conversations I have with myself. But so it was coming up that we are expanding.
That's interesting. Has any spirits or in your astral travels or anything like that, has anything like the 2020 come up? The reason
Well,
why this is going on, other than, I mean, the obvious reason that you've been talking about, but anything else?
well, it's necessary. I mean, you know, we're polluting and killing the planet. I mean, that's just not me. That's physicists, scientists. They'll all tell you. Environmental. You know, we're ruining the planet. Do we do? Is that what we're going to wait for? Are we going to wait till there is no more planet, and then only some of us will get to take the little spaceship off? You know, most of us will die from pollution, and so there has to be an awakening. There has to be a consciousness. What also came up to consciousness is look at the amount of ugliness that have come up, prejudice, bias, what people really think about somebody else, religion wanting to control again, fighting hard to control. You know, come to me, I will tell you. And I say, no, go inside yourself. Go inside. You know what's good and what's not. You know what's going on. I'm not, if somebody has a really nice religion, I'm not opposed to that. It's not like I'm trying to get people away from religion. If it's serving you and serving humanity in a positive way, fine. I grew up very strict Catholic. I went to school with the nuns and I've studied theology all my life. So I'm not opposed to religion. But when it wants to control me and tell me how I should think, then I step outside of that box. But do I think of why is it happening? Those are the reasons. We're ruining planet Earth. Our prejudice and bias against people of different colors and different thoughts has gotten so bad that other people of other colors and cultures cannot come up to match their growth. And so, you know, I think we should just look at people with how we interact with them. Why should I decide somebody's bad because they're a different color or a different sexual orientation or whatever? It's
Right.
not my decision.
Well, at the end of the day, we're all the same anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just, this is just a vehicle that we're taking an experience on. It's
Yeah. So we have to watch our sugar so our intake doesn't get clogged up.
no doubt, no doubt. Um, so you're a near-death experiencer. When you, what do you think it is when like some people have experiences like the heavenly experience or they follow the light, but then there's others that have like a hellish experience, like, and then there's people that, I mean, do you think the experience is based on our beliefs here on earth? Because I
Yeah.
feel like if you're not, if you don't believe in heaven and hell, you're not necessarily going to have that kind of a near death experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Probably. And I've been asked this question before. I do not imagine or pretend that I have all the answers in the spiritual world. When people tell me, "Oh, this is an expert on this," and that, and I'm like, "Well, I don't really think there's that really any experts. They may be well educated and well experienced, but we don't know. You know, we're in the paranormal, parapsychology, metaphysical world. You know, so we have to see. I think that when I agree with you that some of our own thoughts drive us to have different kinds of experience. Like I was asked a question, when you died, did you go through the tunnel? No, no, I just was there at the garden party, as I call it. I was just there. Um, did you feel your body leave? No. Well, to begin with, I was unconscious, you know, from the car accident. And so, when people have really negative and fearful experiences, what could that be based on? It can very well be based on, as you just said, people's beliefs about themselves and about the world around them. Uh, it can be the kind of life that they lived, you know, not very, very charitable, very kind life to other people, and they experience that. I actually do not have a firm answer for that, Dylan. I really don't.
I was just curious.
I can just
My,
say what I think.
I've talked to, you know, quite a few people now that have had near death experiences. Matter of fact, a person that's coming on my show next week, it's going to be on next week's episode. She wrote a book about her experience in hell, but like later on, she had realized that it was basically her thoughts that was manifesting that kind
Yeah,
of reality for her, and she kind of was able to, even though she was still in the near death experience, but she was able to kind of shift gears and change the scenery and change where she was. And I just, you know, you being an experiencer, I just thought, and I know you know you're pretty knowledgeable on a lot of this stuff. I was just curious on your
I
outlook.
listen. I read and I listen and I meet people and I talk to them. That's how, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at it. And certainly, there are so many people that have had near-death experiences, and it is their own experience. You know, that is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say is that mine was absolutely the greatest sense of serenity that I ever experienced, even with all my years of meditation and my enhancing experiences. I have never experienced it like that.
I think,
I wanted to, you know, I've
right.
wanted to experience it, that height of serenity and tranquility.
I mean, that's a similar thing. That's a pretty common thing, I think, from a lot of experiencers of near death, is that
Yeah,
the peace and the serenity and the love that you feel.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, let me ask you a question then, because we never really got onto this topic. What are your thoughts on aliens and UFOs?
So if you're asking me if I believe, you're asking me, this light's in my eyes. I'm trying to find the right place for it. Um, do I believe that there's aliens? I absolutely have always believed there were aliens. I used to go out in the backyard and say, T, I want to feel it. I want you. Come and get me. They never did. They never would come for me. And I'm like, come on. I want to see what it's like. You know? So I guess they're like, yeah. You know, wait, we're going to get somebody else that was scared the beavers out of them. You're too willing.
That's funny.
And, but I have always, you know, what was the first book really that came out that I read? The Fires of Chariot.
Mm.
Yeah, I read that and I had no doubt. I said, yeah, yeah. I still watch the alien programs and they're
Yeah,
way better.
they
I
are
mean,
better.
historically, oh my God, they're way better than they used to be. You know, the guy with the hair that looks like a parrot and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, there's too many people that have had too many experiences and have seen too many
Yes.
things to
Yeah.
not.
And so I think they're closer than ever. I think
Yeah.
that we are being watched over and they're probably going, oh man, we gave them so many chances. They keep messing up. Um,
Yeah,
I,
I
I have met people, I've really met people. Even I have said to people before they said to me in some readings, I said to one man in this whole, someone had a big book party for me and people were asking me questions. And I looked at this man, I said, well, you're not of this planet. You're just down here observing us. And his wife just about dropped off the chair because they don't like to talk about it. But has actually beautiful artwork that he shared with me, that he's not of this planet. I mean, I saw it in him.
it's
And I,
like you picked up on it and you called it out.
mm-hmm. In the group, I probably shouldn't have done that in the group, and people laugh because they go, yeah, the wife says something about it. And so over the years, I do not have a lot of clients, hardly any, very nil, and that I have picked up on them said, you're very uncomfortable because you're really not of this planet, and they just cry. They're like, thank God somebody said it, and I
Wow.
believe that is true.
Wow.
The intermingling of human and those from other dimensional spaces, those from other cosmic energies and planets.
That's another thing too that I kind of often wonder how if they're able to travel in and out of other dimensions rather than just being from another planet, flying here. They're actually able to come in and out of our reality or our
I'm
dimension.
waiting for them. I want to. These are all good questions. Here, let me make sure I
Yeah.
write them down. I keep telling them, "Come on, come on! I got questions. Come and get
Right.
me."
Right. I got 100 questions. Come on.
I want to know when you have someone on about the UFO. Would you please ask them why I can't get them to come and get me and tell me this stuff?
Definitely will. I've had a few. I've had a guy I just recorded. I haven't released the show yet. That was abducted by aliens, and then
Oh,
there's another guy that I got coming on. That's it's kind of a famous one. I don't really want to.
talk about it now, but let me know. I definitely want to hear it.
Yeah.
I have a book from when I had my metaphysical center in San Francisco. I had all different speakers come, and I had a woman that had been abducted and wrote a book, and she came, and everybody there that came to the talk. I mean, it wasn't like she was some weirdo or whatever. She just made a lot of sense,
Right.
and her abduction and it burned, burned her arms, and she had like little,
Wow.
when you get burned, you have little scars on you, and
Yeah.
yeah, that was
It,
really interesting.
it is interesting. Okay, so now that we've touched on UFOs, your thoughts on like maybe Native American creatures or cryptids, things like that, or maybe their thought forms or whatever they are.
Well, I'm personally have friendships with the people, the Native Americans. Um, I personally know I've been on some of the radio shows years ago with some of them. I'm very involved at one time with speaking with them. I didn't want to be Native. I wasn't like one of those people that wanted to be married. It happened. I have people from all different colors and cultures that I end up speaking with and what have you, and I'm very honored actually.
Right.
They are in tuned much more than most people to the spiritual world, to the other world. And because of that, I think it's why we can have a good dialogue. When I did used to read, especially for this one whole family, the mother and the children, now the children are growing up and very active, Native Americans politically, very, very, very big roles with that. And I can talk to them in a greater depth about their transitioning spirit and those that are around them that is working with them. And they get it. There's none of this, what does that mean? They get it.
Yeah.
And so in that way, there are certain cultures that really do know and understand. I have found less superstition in the Native American people than I have found in other cultures. Because, I've read for people throughout almost every part of the world at some time or another. And there is a lot of superstition. And I like to separate superstition from the actual psychic world, philosophical, metaphysical, psychic world. Superstition is not a learning place. And I have found that less in Native Americans that I have been involved with than, I won't mention the other countries and cultures. I don't think it's fair to them. But you got to get rid of the superstition.
And so you agree that those creatures do, exist
Oh, yeah.
in some, yeah.
Shape changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a very few, but a few actual astro travels where I could describe to people after who was there, what was happening, what was said. And I was at home. I was not even there.
I think it's fascinating, the culture like that, or like even some of the ancient cultures, that how in touch they were with spirituality and with just things that, I don't know, we take for granted, or we chalk up as just, hearsay or myth.
Yeah. Or isn't that weird? And that's what I want to do. I want to really, I believe my purpose. I'm only probably on planet Earth for maybe, if I'm lucky, 20 years. And I don't think I'm going to go much more over 20 years, maybe 25, but I'll go. So what I would like to do is really give an opportunity for people to become conscious and be aware of how their psychic mind really not only benefits them to develop it, but benefits everyone else around them, or most people around them, those that are ready. And that's what we're part of this, what we're going into, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, right? We're going into that time of technology and heightened awareness of the psychic mind.
Well, I think that's a great role for you to, do, because it's needed, and you definitely have the ability and the experience to do that. That's awesome, awesome stuff. And that's definitely what, humanity needs, people like you, pushing them forward, and helping people to change and become more spiritual, and kind of flip some of their thinking around. So what else you got going on?
Well, just that. What I'd really like to do is begin to start teaching children again. And I haven't really got it together. I've asked all the time, I used to teach children, read auras, what is your psychic mind saying to you? ESP for children. And it's such a delight because they're so right there still before the world has got a hold of them.
Yeah, they're an open book, right?
And how can you be part of, again, how can you be a positive part of society by knowing these skills? And so really, I'd like to do that. I mean, I get asked to teach a lot. All of what I talk about in my monthly talks is based on what people ask me to talk about. I tell people, send me a thing. What do you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
I know a lot of this and that. So, but I'd really like to teach children. I think that's where it's at, is to get a hold of our youth and direct them.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's one of my goals in 2021 is to go back to teaching children. So I'll have to be on Zoom, or something. But oh man, they're so cool when you start teaching them,
and I think
have such a great time with it.
Well, and I think you could help them build a foundation that they can use their entire life, that's huge. And just, they're so honest most of the time. Kids are just honest, open books, willing to learn.
Even when they lie to you, you can still tell that they're that's how honest they are. I look at one of my grandsons and I go, really? Really? You really think that Omi's going to believe that one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, kids are great. And
I would like to write a sequel to my first novel, The Sky in June. I'm asked all the time. I get emails from people and people on Facebook. Where's the rest of this? I go, yeah, I'm getting around to it. It's a real commitment to write.
Yeah, really, I bet.
Oh,
And do you have an idea of kind of like the plot line or
Oh
anything,
yeah.
or?
Oh yeah, I wrote the first two chapters. I mean, yeah, I know I have the whole outline. I know exactly where it's going. Um, I just gotta sit down, discipline myself again.
Yeah,
That's what it takes. You just gotta say this is it, and nothing else is coming in.
that's a lot of work, I'm
It's a lot of
sure.
work. Yeah, it's a dedication. Well, we'll
Yeah,
see. But that's what I want. Just continue on sharing what I have and encourage people to go out into nature and to find a way to continue to be kind, even if it's to one being. You know, kind to a dog, kind to a cat, kind to another person. Because it goes a long way in saving our world. I mean, we're at a place where we've got to save this world. That part I'm serious about, and not in a negative way.
right.
In a way of really saying, "Wow, you know what? If you think there's going to be a future here, it's just only going to get more difficult."
Right. And I'm a big believer into being positive or being treating others kind. You get what you get back. You get back what you give. In
Yeah,
the universe, I feel like that gives it back to you.
the love that you give is the love you get back, right?
Yeah.
The love that you give is the love
Yeah.
you get back, and
Yeah.
it is true. It really always comes down to when you get older, you wish you had known what you'd known. That you know, like, gee, I wish I had known that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, real quick, what's the name of that movie? What's the name of the movie that is based on you and in the
He
murder
wants to
mystery?
use he wants to use the title of my book.
Okay.
Oh, the movie that's being made about me?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to use How to Talk with Spirits. I don't think it's that great of a name for a movie, but hey, I'm not writing it, I'm not producing it, I'm not putting up the money for it.
Right. When's it
All
set?
I want is I want a cameo role. I
Right.
don't. You remember Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, like Albert or Stephen King does that a lot too with
Oh,
his.
okay, yeah. In every movie, he's either
Yeah.
getting on the bus or looking through a.
Yeah.
I said I want a cameo role, and then Veronica Cartwright said, yeah, she worked with him on the Birds. She was in that movie. She was
Uh-huh.
and she said he was a really nice man. He was really nice, so he was good to work with.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that's me. I already picked what I want. I want to be walking down the street with a dog. That's me. That's me. That's me.
There I am. That's
Yeah.
funny. It's been great catching up with you, and it's been a very positive talk. I think it's something that's it's much needed in these times, these current times.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And when I get down, luckily I have a good support group, that spiritual group that says, yeah, I know it's a bad time. I know you're down and stuff. They listen to me, and then just even hearing me say, boy, I'm really worried, and talk about it, changes. I feel better. Just so I encourage people, say it, but don't go on and on and on. I mean, I do have some people that they don't stop. But yeah, get a good support group. Believe in this world. Have hope.
Mm, well said. Well, where can we find the work that you're doing, June, and where
Well,
can we get some of the great books that you've written?
well, go on to my website, June Ahern, AHERN.com, or just Google me. I'll come up all over the place. And I announced in January 21st, I'm doing on spiritual guides and friends, angels and such like that. That'll be my talk. And I always do meditation and just give a talk. It's an hour talk. Who wants to stay on it longer than an hour, And yeah, so just go there and my podcast, the latest podcast, I always put that up too when it's out. So people, and people can get to that and hear maybe whatever.
What's the name of the podcast?
No, not my. I
Oh,
don't have
just any podcast
That's
that
too
you're
much
on.
commitment. Someone
Got
told me I had to do it. I said, forget about it.
You'd be
That
good.
was
You'd be good at it.
no, that's a job. Then I have to show up every week. And I don't want to show up. Even my blogs are, here's a blog. A month later, here's another blog. So that's where they can find me. Just go on there, and that's all the update. I put updates on there, and my books are on there, and how to get in touch with me is on there, and everything.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing again, and it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Dylan.